Sometimes, when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but you've actually been planted. Christine Kane. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Sheree Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is a space for women, feminine, and non-binary people who are Black, Indigenous, people of colour to explore their relationship with nature. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. Yeah, man. It is Sunday morning, 31st of July, and I'm having my first cup of coffee for the day. And it's summer. Yeah, we're on our summer holidays here. Well, I say that it hasn't felt really like the holidays as yet because I've had things to do, people to meet safely, not really face to face. I'm still trying to operate on a virtual level here. If only the rest of the world would follow suit, but that's another story. Tomorrow I go up to Edinburgh on I've got an artist residency there with Spilt Milk Gallery, which was set up for mothers who were struggling to find the time to get their creative groove on. So I'm there for a week and I'm going to be focusing on the Baltic hinterlands, the group show coming out in October, commission. So I'm in the process of packing and going off for that to be in a space where I can focus totally on what I'm creating, away from other responsibilities and demands, in a new place, in a studio, man, where I can just get all my shit out and leave it and then come back the next day and start all over again. It's like, yes! So yeah, I'm a bit excited about that. But before I get there, I need to be sharing with you the next episode from the podcast, and it's with the amazing and wonderful Jackee Holder again. We had Jackee earlier on in the series in the podcast, talking about trees and writing and creativity, and I had to bring her back because things have changed for her since the last time I spoke. She's moved house, she's landed somewhere else, she's having to root into place, and she's using nature. She's using trees once again to find her place in the world. And the quote I shared, you know, when you're in that dark place and you think you're buried, that quote from Christine Kane, Jackee shared it with us in this episode, and when she shared it, it was like boom, it so landed with me, and I hope it lands with you. In this episode, we talk about the move, we talk about her settling into a new home and the garden with the willow tree. That willow tree is a healing tree, and it's helping her move through, journey through change and accepting it, not fighting it. Yeah, so much wisdom and joy that is in this episode. And yeah, I'm happy to be bringing it to you. So yeah, this was a bunch of 3 episodes that came out, and we're going to have a little rest, and then we're going to come back with a series of solo episodes with me to see us out for the rest of the year. Let's not skip ahead yet. Let's just sit back and enjoy this episode with Jackee Holder. Thanks for coming back again. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.
Well, given that we're just talking about rooting in places, I have just moved to a new place.
Yes. When I saw that, I thought, wow, that must have been really traumatic in a sense, because your place where you were, it was a place where you'd been rooted family-wise, generation-wise, and on those borders.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. So you said it was traumatic, but I think the word that comes to mind, I felt a lot of grief leaving my old home. I know that grief obviously has so many different levels and degrees. So this was it's its own degree and its own level of grief. But after, I think it was over 6 years, coming up to 7. And it was a place that I felt very protected in. So there was a busy main road. It wasn't a main road, but it led up to a main road. And it was one of those roads where cars were always up and down. I mean, I could hear, cars stopping in the middle and fighting about who had right of way, that kind of thing. But I had this big black iron gate, and then you walk down the drive to these 2 houses pitched on this piece of land. And it was like walking into an oasis and a sanctuary. And given where I was at the time that I moved there, it's very funny, the metaphor. I felt like I was just protected, cocooned from the rest of the world. I had regular visitors of magpies, starlings, crows, so many birds visited that garden. And in the time that I was there, I planted a 3-foot olive tree. And when I left, it must have been about 10 feet. And I tried to take it with me. And as one tree surgeon very gently said to me, that tree is not going to survive if you try and uproot it. Its roots are as tall or as long as the height of the tree. He said we would literally have to take the whole of your garden away to try and unearth those roots. So you can imagine trying to then replant that in a garden. I just had to really acclimatize myself to the fact that I had to leave the olive tree, and that I had to leave that to be the shade that somebody else would sit under. or that somebody else would be able to stand at the kitchen window and look out into the olive tree and see the beautiful blue tips, the robins, all the birds, because birds go to different trees. That's what I realized. They never went to the apple tree. They weren't interested in the apple tree, but they liked the olive tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left behind the olive tree and the apple tree.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a real lesson for me in letting go, because obviously inside of the house, Sheree, I had so much stuff. I mean, I'm not ashamed, but I'm like, Jackee, what? The boxes went on forever and ever. I mean, I can honestly say that 20% of that was books. It could probably even be more, because I think I'm in denial about the number of books I've collected over the years. I gave away hundreds.
Yeah.
I donated to the library that I used to go to as a child. And I've donated to I donated to another library that was closer to where I lived. And the man took the books off of me, like, are you seriously giving me books like this? Mm-hmm. I'm sure half of them have gone to his house. I mean, he was almost like, are you sure you want to give me these books? I was like, yeah, I do want to give you these books. So yeah, it's been a lot of metaphors. It's been a lot about letting go. So I've had to let go of things outside of me. Mm-hmm. I've moved further away from all the family. So I do feel like I am on my own a lot more now, even though we all live individually. That geographical difference feels quite poignant. Mm-hmm. So I've had to find my own land, really, to kind of inhabit. And I know you want to know about what's going on in the back garden, so maybe we'll come to that in a moment.
But that's it, you've moved house. And I totally understand that grief of leaving. But where have you moved to?
Well, I'm not far from where I used to live, actually. I'm 10 minutes drive. I'm still in London, more on the outskirts. It's a place called Addiscombe, and it's absolutely lovely. I honestly didn't know this area. It's quite interesting. I literally decided to, I was trying to move back into London, and the more I was looking at places, I could have got something that, I could have got something, but it really would have been a compromise on space and greenery in terms of what I had access to after going through my own front door. So I decided to let go of sort of like goals and expectations. Oh, I'd love to live here, or I'd love to live there. I just thought, let me just see what comes up, and let me just see what, sparks my heart. And you get to know the estate agents, and what happens is they give you all the houses that don't go onto their website. But as soon as a house comes up, once they know you, they'll give you first choice in those properties. It's you've got to know how to play the game in the system.
I hear you.
It's like a network.
Especially in London. I know when I was buying my bachelor pad, and it was if I didn't have a special relationship with Tim, then I would have been,
Well, that's still happening. And so I built up this little team that knew that I was looking, and they'd send me stuff from all over the place. And when I came and looked at this property, I thought, oh, this is really, really nice. This is really nice. And then I came back a couple more times. And of course, when I think they did like a couple of weekends showing, and of course there were like people bidding, like, mad for the property. It's got some wonderful features. I moved from one property that was very modern. I lived in a modern small townhouse to a Victorian house. And with Victorian houses comes all kinds of, you get all the wonderful character in the house. So there are some amazing fireplaces, which makes me feel I've always loved that kind of architecture in homes. And the previous owners have done some wonderful features to the house. And I was quite keen to not have to be worrying about renovations and refurbishments. I just literally wanted somewhere I could land.
Yes.
But I think what really, really stumped it, Sheree, is when I went out into the garden.
I knew it. Because you've mentioned land, your own land, and then you've also mentioned to land. And now let's talk about that.
Well, let's not get carried away with too much land. I've not got like 100-foot garden.
I know.
Nothing like that. But what's on the land is it's really quite, it's lovely. So when I walked out into the back garden, just walking up, I was greeted by a magnificent, effervescent streams and streams and streams of large, free-falling, lush green leaves of a willow tree.
I knew it. As soon as you were describing it, I was thinking, it's willow. It's willow.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what greeted me.
What does that symbolize of?
Endurance. Willows are a symbol of endurance. They also contain one of the main ingredients for aspirin. So as a medicinal healing tree, they are considered to carry very healing medicinal properties. And honestly, Sheree, it literally, the whole canopy of the tree wraps itself right over like a huge arch. So we literally sit underneath the tree, often with a glass of sparkly, under the tree. So when people come to visit, if it's nice outside, we sit under the tree, and you're just hidden back there. And it's just lovely just hearing the voices submerged amongst the foliage of the weeping willow tree, it's one of those weeping willow trees you see in children's storybooks. The ones that you find, like if I go to not Kew Gardens, Richmond Park, I'll see loads of willow trees, just like the willow tree in my back garden, along the banks of some of their little streams, the streams that are kind of running through different parts of Richmond Park. That just feels like a gift. So it's kind of like when I saw the willow tree, I kind of did forget about the rest of the house, to be honest. It was like, oh, this is a house with the tree in the back garden. Okay, we now have a problem.
Not so much a problem though. As you said, a gift.
Yeah, well, the realization was no other house was going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
No other house was going to do. So even though I didn't really know the area, I just looked up and down the street. There's loads of trees on the street. I thought, this is a nice street. It has a lovely front door. I thought, and it's got a tree in the back garden.
And you just described it. You said you had that in your past place. You had that protected place. But just what you've been saying there about the willow tree, you said it cocooned you. So that is another protective space there that you've found. And that's a healing one.
It's so true. And I've had my daughter and my sisters over at different times. And my daughter was, it was one of those weekends where the weather was fantastic. And we were out in the back garden. And my daughter put a mirror that I used to have in my other back garden on a bench that because my back garden was small, it used to reflect back the rest of the garden, make it feel bigger. She placed it sort of adjacent to the willow tree. And the way she did it, the sun actually lands in that spot. And she said, Mum, this is your meditation spot.
Aha.
Here it is. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, because, I was just plonking the mirror in the same place that it was from the house that it came. And
Yeah.
Aida just walked around the garden, found that spot. And it just feels like, you were just finding our way with different things. And the other thing, Aida, who's my daughter, pointed out to me, we were inside and I was in the kitchen, and the kitchen is joined. You can access the kitchen through the dining room. And she said to me, Mum, the mirror in the dining room, you've placed it in a position that it reflects the back garden back to you. So you actually don't have to be in the garden. I just look across into the dining room, into the mirror, and the garden is literally inside the house.
Oh my gosh. And you didn't do that thinking, did you?
No. I was
That
like,
was
the
unconscious.
sofa's here. We couldn't get the sofa in the living room because it wouldn't turn in the hallway.
Mhm.
So the sofas ended up in the dining room. So I thought, oh, mirror just above the sofa. So I just plonked the mirror there. And it was Aida. She said to me, oh, Mom. I
Uh,
probably wouldn't have noticed for months.
but I just love that. I just love that how someone else can come into the space and see things that we
Yes.
have subconsciously, unconsciously might have placed or done. And then to actually speak that to us and tell us, it's like, it's so wonderful and magical, but it's like, it's almost reminding us, yes, I have this inner wisdom and inner knowledge, and I might not be conscious of it, but it's working for my benefit all the time.
All the time. And, I'm using this as an example because knowing my lovely daughter as I do, I think if I said to her, you're so creative and you're so insightful, you're so intuitive, she would probably take a minute. I'm not sure those terms, she would use those terms so readily or so easily. But I can give you so many more examples where her wisdom and her insight is like a river that just flows. It's so beautiful, it's so graceful. I do feel like she carries a really gorgeous energy in the way that she looks at the world and the way she sees things, because she's not Aida's not a pushy person, takes her time to get to know people. And I think that comes through with her, the kind of foresight that she has.
Foresight, yeah. Well, yes, she is your daughter. So there is something from the source that is flowing through her. Okay, you are the source, other contributing factors, but take some credit there. Some credit there.
So we can say that sometimes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Exactly.
Got his head, isn't it?
So how does it feel then? So you've got a little bit more land and you've got this lovely willow tree. How do you feel that your relationship then has been changing with nature from this move? And also, as you have been changing, because what you're showing here, and I hope you don't mind me telling people that you've just had you've had a significant birthday in the last time that we talked. I don't see that as a bad thing or a negative thing. In society, it is. Aging is not something we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to hold it back. But I think what you're demonstrating is that you're so much of a changing woman, like nature is, like nature herself is constantly changing. And to actually fight against that, you're going to cause yourself a lot of friction, basically, and tension without actually going with that natural flow. And things do have to change. So tell me your relationship with nature, with this land, with this new garden, with this move. How has it been changing and developing?
Yeah, that's such a rich question. And my first thought is, when I first came to view this property, the willow tree had no leafage. It was bare. And I would say that that is reflective of the journey that I have been on the last 6 years. I feel like I've had to really bare my soul and bare myself and allow myself to feel bare on so many different levels. And I remember that some years ago on Instagram, I posted an image of a willow tree that was on the street opposite. It was located on the street opposite to the one that I lived on. And I was in outrage because I went past a willow tree one day that also used to grow, and literally the leafage would be sweeping on the top of cars, almost causing accidents, because it would just grow over into the road. And the next day I'd gone there, it was literally cut right back to nothing but the, where they pollard it right back to the bare knuckles. I was like, oh, what are you doing to the tree? How horrible. How can you do this to a tree? Of course, I obviously needed to learn about trees a bit more, because we do this every year to cut back the willow tree, because willow trees, as a tree surgeon explained to me in my garden last week, I have to cut back the leaves and the foliage of the willow tree in the wintertime, because as tall and as long as the leafage grows, so do the roots. And what happens, the roots just grow, and they can grow right up into the house. So you have to cut back the willow tree in the winter, because that shrinks back the roots. So then it can draw back, and it can take the nourishment and the sustenance that it needs from the soil and the earth to take it through the winter months and into the spring, and then it will rebirth again. And I feel like, the fact that I moved house around the time of a significant birthday. Well, let's just put it this way, Sheree. I now have my free Oyster card that I can use after 9:30. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say.
It's saving thousands of pounds, that is. Thousands of pounds.
And I'm a person who loves to wander around London. That was like the icing on the cake. You're going to give me a free Oyster card that I can use after 9:30? Hello. That is going to be so well used. But yeah, so by him explaining that to me, and especially about, sometimes we think that when our lives or difficult or challenging times come to us, we think that's the end of it. And we sometimes forget about what is coming to us. I think there's a quote that I often use on courses. I think it comes from a woman called, I think something Kane. I can't remember her first name. I thought it was Susan Kane. Anyway, somewhere on my Instagram feed, she says something like, really lovely quote. She says, sometimes you think you've been buried, but you've actually been planted.
Ooh.
Sometimes you think you've been buried, but you've actually been planted. And for me, the willow tree's appearance, I got to see in the space of purchasing the house, is a metaphorical reflection of the journey that I've been on. It's both been an inner journey and an outer journey. The whole, I can feel like I've probably done a 360 shift in relationships, friendships, connections. There's been a huge amount of letting go, and the more you let go, the more good comes to you.
Yeah.
And that every year it's going to have new growth, and it's going to grow. Nature knows that. That saying, nature abhors a vacuum. If nature has a vacuum, it will create a space for something else to happen. I've welcomed the willow tree. I'm very slowly getting to know the willow tree. I'm not rushing like I normally do. I normally see a tree and I'm like, I've got to hug this tree. Oh, this is a lovely tree. Do you know what I mean? Like I can be quite giddy and excited around trees. No, seriously. Someone said to me the other day something about oh, what are you up to? I bet you're wandering around somewhere hugging trees. And they said it really seriously, like, oh, we know you love doing that, Jackee. But I've noticed that there's been a lot more stillness.
Oh gosh,
slowness. You know, I peek out at it, like I'm up in the office at the top of the house and I'm looking down on it. It's enormous, you know. It's not even it's tiny. It's absolutely beautiful. And I haven't started to share photos of it because I'm just waiting for the right moment to kind of where I feel really connected to it. And one of the little treats about the willow tree is it's got a lovely hanging egg chair hanging from the branches that the previous owners put there, and I asked them if they would leave it, and it's just a magnificent seat. The challenges though is what I've realized, I think from sitting under there, we brought moths in to the house that I'm fighting now with moths who seem to take over one of the rooms. Honestly, I'm like a woman consumed. Every single herbal remedy has come out and actually is working. The lavender, I've sprayed lavender everywhere. I've put lavender essential oils everywhere, on the rugs, on the floors, on handles, and literally in my bedroom. I've reduced from like going into my bedroom every night and seeing 2 or 3 of them. I'm now not seeing any at the moment. So now I'm tackling another room just to see if I can reduce the numbers. But I've worked out that I need to have built-in wardrobes. I need to have a containment for the clothes because the clothes are all on racks. And I think the moths are having a field day. They're like, yeah. We're loving this room. Yeah, we're having a party.
I just love that. I mean, I love you, moths, but you know, these are my clothes and I'm not sharing them.
Absolutely. And it's really good, because one of the things I've been thinking about in the move, and you know, nature I feel is very reciprocal in terms of being a real great equalizer, a real great sharer.
Yes.
And with the amount of items that I moved with, and you know, that is even after, you know, editing, letting go of a lot of stuff, I'm really getting into, look, if you've got this, you've got to use it. If you're not using it, you need to let it go.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that intellectually, because I found clothes, I thought, hold on, you have not put that on for 5 years.
Yeah, man. What are you keeping it for?
What are you keeping it for? You didn't even remember you had it.
Exactly.
You know,
coming up to 2 years since I last moved, and I totally downsized in what I was having. But then I periodically also declutter and downsize as well. Because when I'm thinking, right, I can't get moved. I mean, I came into a place that had nothing. I had to furniture and everything into it. And it felt spacious, but when it starts feeling less spacious, I'm thinking, you've got too much shit in there, Sheree. Get rid.
Absolutely. Yeah, and isn't nature a great teacher at telling us about, you know, what it is like to have space? That's one of the things I loved about this house when I bought it. It was empty. And I liked being able to move into the emptiness of the space. Well, now I've filled it, haven't I?
Yeah, exactly. but talking about that reciprocal nature, because you know, like I'm leaning back into my gratitude practice, as a chance to slow down again, keep practicing my slow, but then also to be appreciating more about what's around me, especially when I've been going through a bad patch, really. You know, things that I've taken for granted. You know, nature gives us gifts. We've got air, water. She provides our food, and these things we do take for granted. So I just want to talk to you about the gifts that you have been providing through your knowledge and expertise and facilitation. Because if I'm right, there was a book came out, but then also you've been facilitating the journal writing workshop still, haven't you? So tell me, how's that going? Because I did pop in a few times and I haven't been for a while, but I totally enjoyed that space that you created with Fiona. So please tell us, talk about it.
So yes, so I think it was we've done over a year of creating an early morning writing group for women on Tuesday mornings. It's a space that's co-hosted between myself and Fiona Parashar, who is a dear friend as well. We got to know each other through work and our work as coaches, and then became friends over the years. And we both have always had a love of nature. Fiona used to live in London and moved back to Bath because she wanted to be reconnected to the place she came from and the nature that was there. She wanted to get back to her roots, and also she had a vision to create, and she did create a program that she runs for senior leaders called Vision Days, where she takes them out into nature to reconnect with themselves and their visions and their purpose. And has just written and published a wonderful book called A Beautiful Way to Coach. And so we do the early morning writing space, and it's just one of the best things that I do in my week, without a doubt. It feels very, very alive and energizing. It feels like we get to meet such wonderful souls in terms of the women who are regular members of the group, and we are getting people joining all the time. We now have people from Slovakia, from South Africa, from India, who are regular members, and more international people who also join us. And it really came out of us both wanting to create community and create a communal space where women took up space. They took up space. They gave space and time to self through the medium or the portal of writing. We didn't want to be prescriptive around what women wrote about in the space. So the idea is that you come, you are given time and space to receive a grounding and a centering at the start of the session, which Fiona beautifully does every Tuesday morning. And then I share a writing prompt. So I will read something, or it could be a poem or an excerpt from a book or something that I read on the internet that I just feel has energy in it. And we'll just choose a word or a line or a theme or an image from the reading, and then we'll all do a 7-minute piece of writing, and whatever comes out of it is entirely up to you. You know, so some people write poems, some people write prose. I mean, some people do lists. It's just, you know, whatever comes. And then once we've done that, we invite everyone to share their intention for the session. And that's where it gets really interesting. Because the idea is that we then go into 45 minutes of silent time where we're on Zoom. Most people have their cameras on. You can have your cameras off because some people are calling in from their beds. But the idea is just having everyone there, and you can look up on the screen, whether you're doing your emails, whether you're writing in your journal, whether you're writing a poem, people are working on their books. So many people write letters to people in the space. We've had someone who worked over a period of 3 or 4 sessions on their wedding speech. I mean, how cool is that?
Oh, beautiful, yeah.
We've had people write services, funeral services, baby blessing. Everything has been written in that co-writing space. And we really want to remind women of how important it is to give yourself time. We truly believe that writing and journaling and being in community with other women is a very sacred way of making those inner connections that so many of us, because we're just so busy, life is so much more stressful and demanding, more than it ever has been. I can't believe the amount of life admin I have to attend to every day.
Life admin.
Every day. Whether it's signing up, if anything you go onto now, you've got to register, you've got to sign up, you've got to download an app, hello, you're just clogging up my life.
Yeah, man.
So this protective space on Tuesday mornings means that women put themselves first.
Yeah.
And it feels really important that it is a women-only space. We did have one man that used to come, and he was lovely. Really, really lovely, because it was an open group to begin with. And then when he stopped coming, because he had childcare responsibilities, it just suddenly dawned on us, this feels really magical, just all women writing together. And I've been, for years, I have run, women's retreats and done a lot of kind of creative, sacred work with women. And I can honestly say that this space on Tuesday mornings, which we call our co-writing, co-working space, really feels like coming home.
Yeah.
It really feels like coming home.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And as you say, sacred space.
Yeah. And when women share what comes out of their writing and the things that they write about in the sessions, I mean, sometimes I can't even find the words to share just how moving, amazing, touching, how connecting it is to just hear all the different things that women write about and speak about, and how it makes them feel and how it makes other people feel listening to them talking about their writing or talking about what they'd written about. It takes very, very little facilitation from myself and Fiona. It is almost like a self-facilitated space. And when one of us is not there, we just simply invite a group member to co-host with us. So we want it to be this space where it's not dependent on us being there, even though we currently still kind of hold it. The idea is that it will eventually become self-serving.
Well, everybody owns it. Everybody owns it. Yeah.
Everyone owns it. So that's where we are with the co-writing group. And since we last spoke, I published Rewilding the Page. I can see it there. What's Rewilding the Page? Tell us. So do you remember the first writing map I shared with you? Did I send you a copy of this one? Writing the Fabulous Trick. You're joking.
The deck prompts.
The inner and outer nature card deck.
Yeah. I got that, but I didn't get the map. No.
Yeah, two are going to be on their way to you
that'd be
afternoon.
That'd be lovely.
Down to the post office. So I think it was it 2016? I have a lovely friend whose name is Sean Levin, and he runs a company called Writing Maps.
I
Yeah.
know, yeah, because I got a few of them maps when they're coming. You know, it was how to write, maybe, I don't know, what did I get? Writing in the city or something like that, or
That's
writing by the sea or something.
The writing by the sea one is lovely.
Yeah, of course I had to have it.
Right. These are part of Writing Maps. And I co-edited these with Sean. So I've been on at him for years. Sean, we need a tree writing map. We need a tree writing map. And we eventually got together. I wrote the prompts for, the first one was Writing with Fabulous Trees. Illustrated writing map in the same genre of the writing maps that you have, but these are all to do with trees, writing around trees.
And so,
yeah,
I mean, it's such a simple concept. I mean, it's like
it's A3.
It's A3, and it's such a handy thing because I used to put it in my pocket and go out and write, you know.
That's the idea. You know, writing maps are brilliant because I love the fact that they're illustrated. I love the fact that they're light, they're easy to carry. They're quite stimulating because they've always got lovely, lovely images on them. And then they all have different prompts that you can take and use. You can literally, you don't even have to take a notebook with you. I was sitting in a coffee shop today on my high street this morning before I started work, and there was a napkin there, and I used that. I forgot my some paper, and I just used a napkin, and you could just use that to write on. And it's just a really lovely way of you bringing some creativity, some fluidity, you know, just a way of some creative expression into your day, and you just never know what might come out of it.
Rewilding the page. Tell us what that one is.
So I think that since lockdown, so many more people have connected with the power and the healing energy of being in nature. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am really passionate about being a champion of nature in the city. Because we often think that we have to go out into the countryside to access nature. And my thing is that nature is all around us. It's everywhere. Yeah, and that's why I post the kind of images that I do to show people, to demonstrate how, for example, London, which is it's an amazing city in terms of, I've just totally forgotten what the percentage is. I think it's over 40% of London is green space. Yeah, London has over 300 parks. People look at me like, London has so many? Yes. And we have a lot of blue space in London as well. I mean, you know, just doing those walks. I often join the River Thames at Chelsea and walk up towards Putney or towards Richmond or further afield. And you do not need to go to the French Riviera, let me tell you. Yeah, there are parts of London that are just stunning along the river. So yeah, the writing maps are really portable, easy to carry around with you, and they get you to engage with the nature around you. So the first one obviously was mainly focusing us towards our relationship with trees, noticing the trees around you, just noticing all the different kind of species of trees that, you know, inhabit your neighborhood and your environment. And I like to think of a writing map. So with the first one, Writing Fabulous Trees, it's a way of you getting to appreciate and to know the trees around you. And I feel like from that place, from that position, we will become better guardians and custodians of the earth, the land, and the space around us.
Yes.
Yeah. So so that led then to a few years later. So last year we published Rewilding the Page, and its tagline is the urban forest writing map. So the idea is that a city dweller, for example, could take this map and they could choose from, you know, doing an exercise and doing some reflection around walking at night and how different the city is walking at night. Or they might feel that they want a dose of a green prescription, so they might just notice all the plants and the trees around them and how the plants detox our lungs, and what the trees do for taking in the carbon dioxide and giving us oxygen. Such a great example of the reciprocal relationship that we have with trees and plants. We cannot do without them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so our care of them is like a way of giving back.
Yeah.
Because they're giving to us all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's different exercises and different activities. Hear the birds sing. There's an exercise around getting to know the trees by writing a tree alphabet. How many trees can you name starting with the letter A? Ash, B, birch, C, cedar. You know, and just like having a bit of fun with noticing and being mindful around nature. And the whole idea is to use nature as a way of connecting with the nature around you, particularly in urban dwellings. But actually, by doing any of these exercises, it's an invitation or a doorway into connecting with your own inner nature.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, the self gets stimulated through the external exploration of nature. It brings us to connect with the nature inside ourselves. So I see it as a bit of nature mindfulness.
Yeah.
You know, a way of using nature as a mindfulness practice.
You know, it's a cycle. It's cyclical. Can you say cyclical?
Cyclical.
Yeah, cyclical.
Yeah.
In the sense of like the outside stimulation gets with to be thinking of the inside, and that mindfulness bring us back out to the outside and how we're caring and looking after nature, you know. So it is, and it's that circle that we should be in with nature, in relationship with nature, in that circle where we're equal. Nobody has domination or power over anyone, any being, anything, any rock, whatever. It's that circle where we're equal within that circle, and that is what's out of balance, and that's what we're trying to get back to. Definitely get your hands on that map, people. I love what you says, that you're a champion of urban nature because it is on our doorsteps. You know, in between meetings there, I just popped out and did about 1.5 miles of a walk, and it was just around my neighborhood. And while I was doing that, I was looking at the gardens and the trees and how it's so lovely at this moment, you know. I got that. It fed my soul just for those 20-25 minutes that I was out there. And that was just on my doorstep. So thank you for that reminder. And, you know, I'm looking at the time, and just the last thing I want to ask you is like, what about your writing practice? Yeah, your creative practice. How's that? What you're doing? Anything you'd like to share as in offerings that you've got to our listeners?
Yeah, that's a great question. The my book of trees it's with me. So we've got a solid proposal now, and I've been looking at different publishers and just trying to work out which publisher do I go to with the tree book. I've spoken to an agent who's quite interested in talking to me, and I'm sensing that I had to be patient with this book, because first of all, it needs the willow tree to be in there.
Yeah.
So do you see it? Like I couldn't hurry this book up.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't understand why something that I feel so passionate about was taking me so long to put out into the world. And I was lying in bed the other day, I was thinking, oh, but the willow tree wouldn't have been in there. So it obviously had to wait for the willow tree. So that's coming. And the the publisher of 49 Ways to Write Yourself Well, which is my book around, journaling practices. They've commissioned me to write a book on writing prescriptions, which is, it's ready to go. And so, yeah, that's going to be coming. And I think the move has made me realize that, like, I've got a base now for the next few years. I can just chill and relax. And I feel like it's an opportunity for me to really come back to my creative practice. I've done a lot of supporting and nurturing of other people's practice. And I think there have been definitely times where I have perhaps not given as much to my own practice. There's been some deserts, kind of just allowed my stuff to kind of be on the back burner. As I have kind of either worked for other people's deadlines. So I have published quite a bit. I've just had a recent article in Coaching Perspectives. I still write my monthly column in Psychologies magazine, which I love doing every month, around journal writing. And I've had a few kind of other nature kind of focused articles published in different journals. So, I do keep my hand in the water in terms of publishing articles on journaling and nature writing. But I think in terms of a body of work,
your own body,
my own body of work, I think I'm missing that.
Yeah.
And I definitely know that people are missing that.
Yeah.
They're missing my voice on the page. And life just sometimes has a way of interrupting us sometimes. But like I said, back to that quote, it's holding in mind that you're not buried, you're actually been planted, and what is going to grow from these times, that to me that's been the gift of everything that I've experienced over these last 6 years. Everything has been lessons and, really, really valuable in helping me to come to a place of humility and humbleness, and just recognizing that I don't have to strive. We're not all gonna be recognized by hundreds and hundreds of people, but do you know what your worth is in terms of what you do and who you meet?
Who you be as well, Jackee. Who you be. Yeah.
I think that is at the heart of it. Who you be.
Yeah, man. It's like we exist, and it's our right to exist, but in our existence, we are worthy. We are worthy just as we be.
And I love the fact that I feel like I sit on a chair and I can laugh. I laugh so much more. I laugh a lot. Somebody said to me, I'm not quite sure the way in which she was saying, but she said to me, oh my God, you're laughing and smiling. I thought, you obviously don't see me enough. But it was enough for her to see a different side of me. And I love that through all of this, I feel I've gotten funnier and funnier.
Cool.
I love hanging out with me, apart from hanging out with the trees.
No. It is an honor and a pleasure to be in your company.
It's like a good wine. It takes years to age, taste divine. I just don't take myself so seriously anymore. And it's so cool.
And it's also good to take our time to savor it as well.
And, if there's ever a quote that I would end on, it's I don't know if you've come across her, Sheree Mack. She's African-American. She's the founder of Black women's walking group called Outdoor Afro.
Yeah, I know Rue.
And it's a quote that I just thought, oh, Rue, you're so on point what you said in this quote. Because for me, I realized when I first started walking, well, I first started running and then I started walking, but it was around 1999. I didn't know how important nature was going to become. It's like my spirit and my soul and my psyche knew what I needed. I didn't know what I needed, but because I listened during, you know, a kind of turbulent time in my life, the running and the walking took me to nature.
Mm.
And it was there that I feel like, you know, when you sometimes might feel like you're unplugged from life, but actually you put the plug back in the socket and you get some electricity coming in. Yeah. That's what nature and the trees did for me. It's like, ow, wake up. She says, the trees don't know what color I am. The birds don't know what gender I am. The flowers don't know how much money I have in my bank account. I think we can rely on nature to be the equalizer for us so we can shed that weight.
Drop the mic. Let's just end there. Jackee, it has been a pleasure and an honor, as I say. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom, your beauty, and for who you be. Thank you, Jackee.
It's been a pleasure, Sheree.